The objective today is to use CSS to style HTML content on a web page. So pretty easy second day lesson in your CSS unit. Today we'll start learning how to style HTML inside of HTML. That's to say we will use inline and embedded techniques first before doing what is an industry standard, and that is creating a separate CSS file. Okay, so that's what we haven't started. Talking about main.css. Currently in progress is some CSS techniques, and what we have completed is our knowledge of HTML. Right now you should understand what plenty of tags mean. So CSS inline provides the developer with the ability to drastically improve a website's attractability. However, HTML is capable of a few aesthetic features. If you look at the top of your browser, or at one of the tabs you may have open in the browser window, you'll notice the words Day 2 Art, which is the title of this web page. The browser displays the title of the web page because the title can be specified directly inside of the head element using a title element. So throughout this unit, we'll learn quite a bit of things to put into those head tags. As of now, many of you may have completely skipped putting the head tag at all in your HTML, and that's okay, we'll cover it here. CSS and HTML work hand in hand. HTML sorts out the page structure, CSS defines how HTML elements are displayed. So vocab-wise, CSS stands for cascading style sheets. Cascading refers to the way CSS applies one style on top of another. And style sheets, they control the look and feel of web documents. So why learn responsive design? Using an inline style is one of the ways to insert a style sheet. Within an inline style, a unique style is applied to a single element. In order to use an inline style, add the style attribute to the relevant tag. How do you add an inline style? So here's what I'm talking about right here. You could put angle bracket P style equals. So here's some color information, and the background color would be gray, and then this would say this is an example of an inline styling. So the text inside of P would be white, and the background of that text would be gray. That's not the entire background of the web page, but that's what I mean by inline styling. The other way you can do it is right here inside the head. You could put style, P, color white, background color gray. Not too different, right, between the one on the top. Both ways are totally okay. And my think right here, what's the difference between these two? Internal styles, both inline and embedded, are done within the HTML. However, the embedded examples are defined within the style element inside the head section of the HTML. So remember, the head is information that the people don't actually see. It's just strictly for the computer. Think right share, what are the two types of internal stylings? So if we're to talk about external stylings, to get the styling done in a separate file, you'll need an external file. With this method, all styling rules are contained in a single text file, which is saved with the .css extension. Just like you have index.html, here you'll have something.css. This CSS file is then referenced in the HTML using the link tag. This is super important right here. If you don't remember to do this, it will not work. The link element goes inside the head tag. Okay, again, the head is just for the computer to read. So the computer will read that there's a link, and it will go find that .css extension for you. So both relative and absolute paths can be used to define the href for the CSS file. In our example, the path is relative, as the CSS file is in the same directory as the HTML file. And another way to think of the word directory here is repository. Your CSS file for the web page you're working on at that moment will be inside of the repository that also contains your HTML file, or files if you have multiple tabs on your website. Okay, so the think right share on this one is just simply copy this. I want to see it inside of Canvas. That'll be a quick way for me to see that you're following along correctly. And then a follow-up here is, what is an example of a property value? So here there's the property color. What are other property values we could have here other than red? So I encourage you to search more on YouTube for CSS courses. There's so much out there, so many resources for you to use. We're just using Solo Learn right now, but there's Code Academy, there's Code School, there's just so much out there, okay? You don't have to watch this video here in the lesson. I can just share some of the big takeaways I had from the video right here. The guy says it's a great idea to draw out website ideas. So before you start doing all your coding, you can go ahead and draw out your ideas. He talks about container, header, content main. Talks about a division ID being a container. He says wrap everything in a container, so that's his advice. Hash ID, then open curly brackets, property name, colon rule, and each rule ends with a semicolon. So my suggestion is when you're watching these videos and you're going off on your own, just discovering things that are interesting to you, you know, for me, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I have to type or write everything out. And just using these vocab words, it's going to help me a lot further down the road as I'm learning this CSS stuff. And then you're going to see some changes in the vocabulary that different programmers use, different web developers or designers use. He says rule instead of saying value. And then one big takeaway, just remember the dot is for a class. You're going to see a lot of hashtags. So there's hashtags and dots. And the dot is going to represent a class. Okay, so right here I'll go through the process that I explained to you for number 1 on the DOL. So simply choose one of your websites. Let me go to this one, Hello World. So this is one of the websites where I did not have an index.html created yet. So I'm going to jump in here and create that really quickly. Index.html. So we start out by saying HTML. Some of you forget to do the head, so I'm going to go ahead and put that here right now. And so here's the part where I could choose to either put something in the body or put it in the head. Let me go with the top one, the harder one. So P style equals color white. Well, you know what? I want to be unique, so I'm going to come up with my own. Black. Background. And then I can't read it. Background color. Dash color. Gray. I'm going with black, so let me make the background color orange. It's around Halloween time as I make this video. Okay, so now I need to type something here. I'm going to type hello world and then end the paragraph right there. Now I have to end the body and I have to end the HTML. Let's make this nice and big. Scroll down, commit new file. Uh-oh, I didn't change my branch here, so click the branch, gh-pages. Change default branch from master to gh-pages, update. I understand. Now from my settings here, I can go down, click the link. This is the link you copy and paste into your DOL section on Canvas. All right, it worked. Not too bad. So that's it for today's lesson. I want you to do a lot of solo learn, a lot of self-exploration. Before you do that, go ahead and quickly answer one of these IB questions. Here's another IB task I wanted us to do today so we can understand the International Baccalaureate profiles a little bit better. So just fill in the blanks of this sentence. Today's lesson was a great example of blank because of blank. So my example, today's lesson was a great example of risk taker because I don't often go off on my own to study things that the teacher talks about. So here's our DOL. I want you to show me an example of 2 internal CSS styling techniques. These will be our non-examples moving forward, okay? So you're going to jump on to GitHub, choose any of your websites, any of the ones we've created this year. We should have about 7. So you have 7 websites to choose from. Just pick one. Do some CSS styling. If you need to go back, you can do that. All right, so some internal CSS styling to just change it up a bit, and then paste your GitHub link for number 1 in Canvas. And then for number 2, just answer this question. With CSS in mind, are collaborative teams or individuals more productive when creating a website?